If you're like me, then fighting games can sometimes seem like they're a metaphorically terrifying kraken to approach. Most games, platformers, puzzle games, shooters, and so on, are pretty simple to pick up. Often there are advanced tricks or mechanics, but the game tends to slowly teach you these over time, especially if you're familiar with similar games in the genre. With fighters, though, it's often a matter of either you know how to fight or you don't, especially if you're playing against other players. Back in the day, this is exactly what made games like Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat into a nationwide phenomenon. The game strung you along just enough to get you hooked before you got your butt handed to you and furiously pumped another dollar into the machine so you could finally figure out how to pull off that super combo you've been receiving for the last 2 days and shove it back down your opponent's stupid, smug... I wouldn't know, I was 4 or 5 at the peak of the fighting game craze. My point is, that curve that makes fighting games so hard to master is the same thing that makes them so rewarding. A lot of games out there can be beaten with nothing but luck and the persistence to keep pressing continue, but if someone can beat Goro multiple times, if they can pull off the Raging Demon reliably, you do not heck with that guy. Similar to real martial arts, though, in a kind of not really type way, making it to that point is a long and hard road. In my case, I found it helpful to pick up some simpler, more approachable fighting games before moving on to the more technical ones. What did I start with, you ask? Bloody Roar. Released in 1997 to PlayStation and arcades, Bloody Roar is a 3D fighter in the sort of post-Tekken, post-Virtua Fighter vein. And in my opinion, it is totally freaking awesome. The basic gameplay is pretty standard stuff for the genre. You have a 2-button input focusing on a mix of special moves and well-timed combos. But what makes Bloody Roar so cool is the third input, the Beast button. Each of the game's 8 characters is part of a mutant race called zoanthropes, people with the power to transform into human-animal hybrids, granting them special powers and attacks. Aside from being completely and totally sick, this adds some really cool ebb and flow to each fight. You start out with half a beast meter, which can build up over the course of the battle. Once you transform, your meter goes down each time you take damage until you get knocked back to your human form. So you have to strategize. You can use your beast power to gain an early advantage, but risk your opponent gaining a bigger edge later on when you can no longer transform. Or you can save up your beast power for when you really need it, assuming your opponent doesn't use their early advantage to thrash you first. Personally, I find it fun to push just how far I can go on skill alone before I absolutely have to use my powers. Hey, it's what Zordon would have wanted. Altogether, you have 8 different fighters. Long the Tiger, Alice the Rabbit, Yugo the Wolf, Gato the Lion, Bakuryu the Mole, Mitsuko the Boar, Peg the Gorilla, and Fox the Fox. Regardless of which character you pick, everybody has 4 quarter-circle special moves. Down forward punch, down forward kick, down back punch, and so on. A few unique combos, and some beast-specific normals used by pressing the beast button after you've transformed. There's plenty of variety in the roster, too. Mitsuko has her command grabs, Long has a dank combo cycle, Bakuryu has lots of tricks for getting behind his opponent, and so on. So there's some depth to fights, even if it never hits the level of, say, Tekken or Virtua Fighter. And even without a terribly complex set of moves, Bloody Roar provides a unique sense of speed and power from other 3D fighters of the era. If we think of Virtua Fighter as being to 3D games what Street Fighter II was to 2D, then Bloody Roar is Marvel's superheroes. It's fast, it's explosive, and it's over the top. And I literally mean explosive. You knock each other around like superheroes most of the time, and you can even send the other guy through the walls with your finishing blow. Pro tip though, maybe avoid setting the walls to always destructible, as this can lead to some comically fast ring outs. But you may have noticed there is one other element that takes this game from being just kind of cool to making it absolutely nut-crunchingly awesome on pure style alone, etching itself onto the soul of pretty much anyone who's ever touched a Bloody Roar game. The soundtrack you're hearing right now. When Bloody Roar hit Japanese arcades in 1997, the soundtrack was a fairly standard mix of 90s synth fighting game tunes. But when the home version dropped a few months later, we got this. I'm so happy right now. This freaking cheesy, over-the-top J-metal soundtrack adds so much to the tone of the game. It makes every fight feel like an edgy climactic duel in some 90s action movie. To be honest, it's so synonymous with my childhood that hearing the original soundtrack is just jarring. Kinda like watching Zoolander for the first time. Bloody Roar isn't the deepest fighter out there, but it's still got enough to keep you playing for quite a while. It's got a cast of memorable characters with their own styles and personalities, a story that, while not substantial, gives you a reason to beat arcade mode a few times, all the modes you could want, arcade, time attack, survival, and even a bunch of unlockable bonus things like big head mode or comically tiny and huge stages. Bloody Roar is a great game, and with some polish, it could have been made into something truly awesome. Fortunately, that's exactly what happened in 1999 with the release of Bloody Roar 2. Which I have, but I bought it on PSN, so I can't show you like a disc, or I'll just get that. Following the success of the first game, Bloody Roar 2 adds more characters, more moves, and more style to the original. Most of the first game's cast makes a return, with a few exceptions. Greg was removed for being kind of busted, with a moveset that varies from slightly OP to completely useless. Mitsuko was removed for reasons that are hard to guess at, but probably related to being unpopular, with some of her moves given to a new character, Stun the Insect. And Fox was similarly switched out with the more conventionally waifu bait Jenny the Bat, probably dropped to avoid controversy. You see, Fox was either a cross-dresser or just straight up a trans woman. Being a Japanese game from the 90s, I don't think the developers really felt the need to differentiate if they even understood there was a difference at all. Still though, this might have been my introduction to either concept, so it's pretty cool that they even got that out there. If it's all the same though, I think I'm going to stick with Poison from Final Fight as my model for questionable morals and even more questionable gender, if that's all the same to you. We also have some entirely new characters in the form of Sheena / Marvel the Leopard, Gato's daughter, Busuzima, a mad scientist chameleon, and Uriko, final boss of the last game, who now has a half-beast, Neko Girl form due to experiments performed on her in Bloody Roar 1. Also, Bakuryu melted into jelly in the last game and came back as a kid. Except, not really. Look, the plot of this game gets weird, okay? Story takes a little more of a center in this game with the appropriately named story mode, allowing you to take each character through a sort of linear visual novel type thing, providing a basic plot to tie together each fight you have. It's your basic fighting game excuse plot, but again, the characters are neat, so it's nice getting some more interaction with them. Basically, after the heroes of the first game destroyed the evil Tylon Corporation and stopped them from experimenting on innocent zoanthropes, the world enters an era of fantastic X-Men-style race tension between the humans and zoanthropes. An organization called the Zoanthrope Liberation Front begins sprouting up across the world, at first seeming to advocate coexistence, but after several terrorist attacks and kidnappings, are revealed to be a hostile zoanthrope supremacist group, also a lot like an X-Men. Busuzima is working with the ZLF and captures/reconditions Kid Bakuryu, who Yugo had found after the first game and taken in under the name Kenji. Wait. Is that? Oh. Alice joins Yugo because she has the hots for him. Busuzima also grabs Mitsuko from the first game, leading her daughter Uriko to seek out Long for help. Stun is seeking out Busuzima for revenge after being made into a hideous mutant bugman, and Jenny is a spy hired to test out our protagonist types. Finally, Sheena enters the story searching for her dad, as it's rumored that Gato may or may not be leading the ZLF, and more concerningly, he seems to be cosplaying as Geese Howard for some reason, even serving as the final boss of arcade mode. And watching all of this from the shadows is an evil clone of Long called Shenlong. Yep, Shenlong. Just like his Street Fighter II namesake, you can only fight and defeat Shenlong by making it through arcade mode without using a continue. And just like Akuma in Street Fighter II, he is a total dick to fight. Still though, I strongly appreciate the audacity of another Shenlong gag about 6 to 7 years after the fact. As fun as all of this plot stuff is though, it's the improvements to gameplay that make Bloody Roar 2 an honorable successor to the first. Combat feels much faster in this game. Bloody Roar 1 wasn't slow by any means, but the movement speed, the combos, the attack lethality all make matches much more quick and decisive. Everything feels like it got a turbocharge. Bloody Roar 2 also added the Beast Drive, basically a super combo that burns all of your beast energy to perform a devastating special attack that can wreck your opponent, but will leave you wide open and beastless if you miss. Minor tweaks to combat pacing and the new risk-reward aspect of beast drives makes this game much more intense than its predecessor was. I've got a pretty solid handle on these games, having played them longer than some college freshmen have been alive, but I still found some of the later fights in Bloody Roar 2 to be heart-pounding, hand-trembling, down to the last hit point battles that got me more revved up than a game has in quite some time. It strikes a great balance. They kept what made the first game so accessible and easy to pick up, whilst adding just enough options that a fight can still turn around on you, driving you to come back again and again until you master the game, just as every great fighting game should.
You win.
The series actually went on for 3-ish more entries. I don't currently have any of those games though, so I can't review them. But for the moment, I'm happy having the first couple games as a reminder of a time when games were a little simpler, and all you needed to have a truly awesome game was blood, rock music, and maybe a transforming furry or two. Till next time.